What up, what up, what up, what up, what up, Crypto Warriors and Sergeant Crypto back at it again. Today is Sunday, May 17th, 2020. Permit me to issue and control the money of a nation, and I care not who makes its laws. Mayor Amschel Rothschild, a founding father of international finance, according to Forbes magazine. Let that sink in for a second, all right? He's basically saying, as long as I control all the money, no government could stop me. And it's true. And we're seeing that currently happening right now with the central bank and their printing of currencies. Let's get into it. This is part 2 for the blog that I am going in a deep dive on, and you can find it on the Exodus blog. Exodus is a cryptocurrency desktop wallet where you're able to manage all different forms of different forms of digital assets, and you can actually trade between those digital assets within the wallet itself. Check it out. So currency shall be given back to the people to whom it belongs. After recovering from 2008, the stock market went on a rally of historic proportions. That was the greatest economic expansion in history since 2008. Big financial institutions who own most of the stock market enjoyed tremendous inflation in asset and valuation. The rest of us who don't own 70% of large corporation shares were blessed with stagnating wages and loss of job due to automation and overseas manufacturing. And we are starting to see now during these COVID-19 lockdown times that a lot of those jobs were needed here onshore within our own borders when it comes to manufacturing cleaning products, when it comes to manufacturing medicines and vitamins, when it comes to manufacturing simple things as masks, all right? Just a regular face mask to wear over your face like we all wear now. And those big plastic screen masks that nurses and doctors have to wear when in the ICU and in other, I guess you could say, hostile environment when it comes to this COVID-19 pandemic. Those things weren't available, and a lot of companies just started making them because they realized there was a shortage of those essential equipments here at home. And a lot of things we had to wait for China to ship to us because they were making them in China and we had to wait on them. And also the president had to backtrack with a lot of the harsh talk he had against China. So, you know, he had to kind of apologize to China and also backtrack what he said and when this thing started blowing up here within the United States. So if we had those jobs here, then we wouldn't be in such a bad situation as far as the manufacturing of those things that were needed right away. We wouldn't have seen a lot of hospital workers wearing trash bags to protect themselves because we would have had the gowns and the mask and the gloves and everything needed because they were manufactured here. But can't change the past. Live and you learn, and we're going to hopefully see that these things will be made here at home moving forward. All right, Fed is pumping at the very least 2 to 3 times more liquidity into the markets than in 2008, and they're not even done yet. Think about that. They're pumping 2 to 3 times more, and they're not even done yet. And as a matter of fact, as of yesterday or Friday, whichever day, the House passed a bill for another $3 trillion. Where's all this money coming from? Or all this currency coming from? We know where it's coming from, but someone has to pay for it somewhere down the line. And yeah, so here it is. I'm trying to Scroll down here. Here it is. The increasingly corrupted, corporate-friendly American government has for decades acted with impunity because there was no alternative. This is no longer the case. Today, there is Bitcoin. Today, there's an alternative to the financial system that is clearly broken. 1. The Fed can mint as many dollars as it wants. Only 21 million Bitcoins will ever be created. Every year, the dollar inflates, punishing savers. Every 4 years, the issuance rate of Bitcoin is cut in half, rewarding savers. 3. The ostensibly independent Fed can manipulate the dollar at will. Bitcoin is governed by code that no single entity, organization, government, individual, fraudster, politician, or false capitalist can change. 4. The United States government has weaponized the dollar, sending countries like Iran and Cuba to the timeout corner. Bitcoin is censorship resistant and can be sent to any corner of the globe at any time for a fee so small it's not enough to buy a bag of peanuts. 5 quantitative easing at the Fed, quantitative tightening at the Bitcoin factory. Now we have Bitcoin, and now we're going to see all the Fed is doing right now, all that printing trillions of dollars and giving it to corporations instead of giving it to the people, giving it to the people that needs it, right? This way they could survive instead of just giving us a little shut up money to go in a corner. Here's a little $1,200, shut up, take it, and like it. They should have been given to people because it's $2 trillion that was printed. They should have given that to the people. I'm not going to go into that here, but you'll see later on that this is why Bitcoin exists. This is the reason. And going forward, I definitely think that this is the lighter fluid. This is the rocket fuel that will push Bitcoin to the moon. And I hate to sound like a moon boy, but it is what it is, right? The issuing power of the currency shall be taken from the banks and restored to the people to whom it properly belongs, stated Thomas Jefferson. With Bitcoin, the American populace no longer has to be subservient to the monetary whims of unelected kleptocrats. Remember that the Fed, anyone that works for the Fed, isn't an elected official. They're all private bankers. They're all in it for themselves. They're all in it to benefit themselves and their own families and to protect their wealth and their pockets. They're the ones that are closest to the money printer. They're the ones that will benefit the most from all this currency printing. Every person who buys Bitcoin is voting for change. They are removing themselves from this farcical financial charade that the United Corporations of America has become. No more corporate socialism. It's time for Plan B. And again, this is why I buy and use Bitcoin. It is my way of protesting peacefully, all right? Peacefully protesting and exiting the system, because we know that the government, they have the likes of the military, all right? They have the Marines. I'm a former Marine myself. They have the Marines. Like literally, the president doesn't even need the Congress to use Marines, to send them in when he feels like it. Okay, they have the military. They have their police. The Federal Reserve have their own private police. They have their own private police. If you go to Lower Manhattan and you walk by the New York Fed, you will see that they have their own New York Fed, or it says Federal Reserve police. They have them guarding their private bank. And guess what? No one could arrest anyone that works for the Fed. No one can bring charges at anyone that works for the Fed. It's just a totally corrupt system. I really, really recommend that you read the Creature from Jekyll Island, and it'll explain and go down the history of how the Federal Reserve was formed and how it started back in 1913. And by the way, that was the same year that the Internal Revenue Service started as well. All right, so you let that sink in. The numbers don't lie, and I like this part right here. I'm just going to read this whole thing. On a balmy November afternoon in New York, 50 years in the future, an inquisitive grandchild is going to ask us when we knew a revolution was coming. It will take a moment to consider the variables, but in a few moments, the answers will become evident. We will describe to this bright youth a picture above. We will describe years of rising inequality, stagnating wages, the staggering cost of a college education, real estate prices so high an entire generation couldn't afford to get married and start a family. We'll describe how the rich were getting richer, the poor poorer, and how on the day that we lost our job, the Dow Jones Industrial Average had its best week in 82 years. I'm going to stop there and break this down for a second. As far as with colleges, we see the cheat code now, right? Where you don't need to go away to college, right? You don't need to go away to college and spend a ridiculous amount of money to get a college education, because guess what? They could have been teaching you from home. They could have been giving you distance learning. You could have been learning everything on the internet or via the internet. We're seeing a lot of college students now are asking for a refund because they spent all this money for room and board, the cost of the education, food, all books, everything, and they were sent home and then told, yeah, turn your computers on and start learning that way. What about the rents that had to be paid, for the dorms and things like that? What about all that money that was spent? Now these students are in debt up to their eyeballs, and they can't get that money back. So we know the cheat code now, right? As far as the Dow Jones Industrial earning having its best week in 82 years while everybody was losing their job. And you saw them bragging about this on, CNBC and Fox Business News and all that, saying that, yeah, we saw the best week in the Dow Jones Industrial, in 82 years. But at the same time, at that time, you had over 6 to 9 million people for the first time starting on unemployment claims. We may share some other statistics to drive home the point. The stimulus bill, the first of the stimulus bills, was worth $2.2 trillion. At the time, there were about 200 million adults in America. If we'd have given the money to them, every adult would have received $11,000. But instead of that, everyone who didn't make a lot of money got $1,200. Plus a bit more if they had kids. People who made more money, some of whom who were also struggling, $1,200 in Alabama is not equal to $1,200 in Seattle or $1,200 in New York. It's not the same. It's just not the same. $1,200 here in New York is not the same. People are renting apartments here in New York City for, a studio apartment for $2,000 or $2,500. So if they're getting $1,200, how is that supposed to last them? And it's a one-time payment, and that's what's so screwed up about this. It was just a one-time payment. It's just all messed up. Where did the rest go? We knew that the money paid for some good programs, loans to small businesses, increased unemployment payments, and the like. But the problem was that we lost faith in our institutions. As our country, we no longer believed that whatever the government was doing was going to benefit us. And then speaking of these small business loans, actually, these quote-unquote small business loans that were supposed to be going to small businesses actually ended up going up to a lot of publicly traded businesses like Shake Shack. The friggin' LA Lakers got some money. But because of public outcry, they returned it. People found out that they got it, and they had to return it. Like Shake Shack had received up to 10. I mean, not up to, but they did receive $10 million. They took that money out of the system and prevented it from being allocated to someone or a business that actually needed it. And let's not forget as well that a lot of small businesses, their employees, it's better for them to stay at home and collect unemployment because they get paid more collecting unemployment, right? So now the average unemployment throughout the whole country is about $450 or so, and then that's for the statewide level, and then on top of that, the federal government is giving an extra $600 to everyone that started an unemployment claim. So a lot of these employees they're getting minimum wage, but they're getting paid more to collect unemployment. When you have a small business file for these loans, these employees don't want to come back to work because the stipulation in the loan is, if I have a small business and I take this loan, I don't have to pay it back as long as I promise and I can show that I am paying my employees. Well, a lot of these employees aren't taking the pay because they're getting paid more from unemployment. So now I'm stuck with this loan. It's just that it's all screwed up. It's all screwed up. Bizarre world. This is what we're living in right now. It's funny, we'll say, as the rocking chair glides on the deck, growing up, we learned that good Americans pay their taxes. We've been taught that is our duty as citizens to support our government. Then a man got on television and said that our banking system, the Federal Reserve, has unlimited money and can print as much as it wants. When we heard that, we asked ourselves, if they can print all those dollars, what the hell have we been paying taxes for this whole time for? Again, I don't know what dude it was, but he came on TV and then he said, yes, we have unlimited money. We could print unlimited money. So if you had all this money all this time that you could print unlimited for an unlimited amount, sky's the limit. Why do we have to pay taxes? Why are we paying taxes? It's just all bullshit. All right, more to the point, why we have been paying taxes so that when push comes to shove, the government can bail out ineptly manage big businesses. And again, I'm going to use the airlines as that ineptly manage big business. For the past 10 years, instead of investing in R&D, instead of investing in their own employees, where we see that pilots have to get second jobs just to make ends meet. And I remember growing up, being a pilot was a prestigious job. It was a job that you would want to have when you get older because it paid so well. But now we're seeing that there are pilots that are getting paid crap and they have to get a second job to make ends meet. So instead of reinvesting in their own companies, they were buying back their stock, their shares, to pump up the stock price. All right. This way, the only ones that benefited from that were the people on the board and the CEOs. So they spent the last 10 years doing crap, and now they're coming to us to bail them out. And same thing with cruise line companies. All right, they have their companies registered all over the world. This way, they don't have to pay taxes here to the United States. But when the shit hit the fan, they come running to Uncle Sam. Hey man, I need some help. We need a bailout. And who have to help them? Us, the American citizen, the tax-paying citizen, who, by the way, we just realized we didn't have to pay taxes, but whatever. That was a day, my dear grandchild, when a generation lost what little faith they had left in the system. And I hope you like my little breakdown here of this blog. And again, if everything's, this blog will be linked in the description below. And let's discuss it, man, in the comment section. It's just messed up. But what are you going to do? Or are you going to opt out of the system and start using Bitcoin and start buying Bitcoin, hodling Bitcoin, getting into the Bitcoin ecosystem? That's why I'm here. This right here. That's why I'm here. To get out of this corrupt system that we are currently in. And again, it is a peaceful protest to use Bitcoin and to buy Bitcoin, because again, I don't have a standing army. I don't have an army to battle the United States, to battle the police or the judges and the corrupt laws that they have written to protect themselves. Okay, this is my way of doing battle with them, is to peacefully buy and use Bitcoin. Let me know what you think. As always, smash the like, hit that subscribe button, notification bell, and I'm out. Peace.